It's time for our weekly financial advice slot with Tommy Corbett from Carey Corbett Financial Solutions. Tommy joins us in studio. But Tommy, before we get into the cost of college and the best way to pay for it, which is very timely for all our Leaving Certificate students that are sitting down, and maybe their parents and guardians more so. Clare, obviously, disappointing doubt against Cork last weekend. The focus now is very much on the next 4 weeks and that All-Ireland quarter-final. What's been going on in camp at the moment?
Very disappointed on Sunday, obviously. We feel we let the supporters down, particularly those that travelled and paid good money to get to Cork and tickets, etc. and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, listen, we'll have to examine where we're at and get back to the hard work. And listen, we're still in the competition, we're still in the All-Ireland series. Obviously we would have loved to get to a Munster final, but it wasn't to be on Sunday, and we'll just have to improve from here.
Well, look, if the good weather is a sign of anything, things can if the sun can shine and break 30 degrees in Clare and in Ireland, and we can go a couple of days without rain, we can do anything, Tommy. And another big test and an exam that's on at the moment are coming up very soon is the Leaving Cert, and once the Leaving Cert ends, it won't be the end of the headaches, because up next is the cost of college, and you're going to talk listeners through the best way of dealing with that. Yeah, well, I suppose if we look outside, sun is shining, it's obviously exam weather, so I've a Leaving Cert student at home at the moment, and it really is tough on them. It's high pressure enough over the next few days or over the next week, not to mind trying to study in this weather. But listen, I suppose a lot of us have been through it, or most of us have been through it, and I suppose part and parcel of that is trying to get to college, and after that it's how do we pay for it. And I suppose that's what we're really going to talk about today, Daragh. And it's not easy. The cost of college in Ireland isn't cheap. If we look at the headline costs, you're looking at student fees of about $2,500. That's for your regular course, your degree course, whatever, in a regular college. If you go into something more specialised, it could be a lot higher. And then you've add on things like travel expenses, books, food, living costs, rental, entertainment. So the annual outlay is far higher than the fees alone, and can be pretty substantial when it comes to paying for a son or a daughter going to college. So if we look at the typical costs, I suppose, Daragh, you're looking at rental is probably one of the biggest ones, and it can go, if we look at kind of various studies have shown, it can go, if you're renting on campus versus renting off campus in a private accommodation, it can, the average can go from €6,000 per annum all the way up to maybe €16,000 per annum. And even if you have to go to college in Dublin, it's probably a little bit higher than that. So if we look at somewhere in the middle, it's probably around 11 grand a year. So that brings a cost of a 4-year degree per child anywhere between 44,000, 64,000, which is a huge outlay as far as parents are concerned. And again, if you're not living in campus accommodation, if you're in private accommodation over 4 years, it could easily add another 20,000 to that bill because of the higher rents. Yeah, certainly serious issues to deal with there. And look, I suppose another thing that parents, guardians, students as well will also have to hassle for is even just identifying that rental accommodation and a bit of a panic with that. But Tommy, you've a few tips here, and one of those is start saving early.
That's the big one. And it makes a massive difference. Like if you have a newborn child and you're thinking that he or she is going to head to college, you have 19 years to prepare for this. And how do you eat an elephant? I've often said this, bit by bit, small bits. So starting saving early has the benefit. The benefit is twofold. Basically, obviously, you're saving over a longer period of time, and then you also have the benefit of compounding interest. Basically, the longer you're saving for, the more interest you're earning, and that is compounding over time. And again, number two really is, if you are looking at long term, skip the deposits. Stay away from your deposit account, your current account, your post office. You really need to be looking at investing, because although investing brings with it a lot of volatility, there's no real risk over time, particularly over the longer term. And if you look at performance over the last 50, 100 years, a well-balanced portfolio, you're probably looking at anywhere between 6 to 8% per annum of a return versus 0% in a current account or a deposit account. So So a unit linked or a managed fund type savings plan is really the way to go. And also then if you're looking at someone going to college from your household, you need to look at the kind of grants that are available, like the Susie, that kind of stuff. So basically check out what eligibility is there and what you are entitled to. But starting early is the crucial one, and that's the one thing we would say to all our clients. Like, I looked at a couple of things. If for instance, if you were to save €200 per month over 19 years versus over 10 years, so you don't start for 9 years after your child is born, the difference is astronomical. So if you save it €200 over 19 years, you're probably looking at a fund of about 90,000 being built up over the 19-year period, and even after taxes and charges, you're probably looking at over 70 grand net, which will easily put your son or daughter through college. However, if you delay that and you only start, we'll say, when they're 9, even at the same growth at a 6%, you're probably looking at a net figure of about 29,000, which is almost 50% less. And that's the, I suppose, advantage of compounding interest over the longer term. The earlier you start, the bigger the pot you'll have, and obviously the more you contribute, the bigger the pot you'll have at the end of the term.
You almost shudder to think of the cost of it overall, don't you?
Yeah, and it is. And again, it is staggering. But again, if you start early, and listen, we will get parents in, looking down the barrel, of a couple of years' time and have a couple of quid put away, but there's nothing like 60 or 70 grand put away. And what I always say to parents like that is, don't panic. Try and get the fees together. Maybe they'll be able to commute, which brings down the cost of sending them to college quite substantially. And then he or she may have a weekend job, that'll go towards, I suppose, putting them through college and go through the added expenses like your entertainment and that kind of stuff. And also then, if you can, if you can pay the fees and then kind of out of current expenditure, for want of a better expression, you're giving them a few quid on a Sunday evening or a Monday morning or whatever it is when they're going to college or whatever, they're eating at home. So that brings down the costs substantially. I would try and not borrow if I could at all, even though, if you go to your credit union or bank, they will facilitate you to borrow in order to put kids through college and that kind of stuff, or they should do. But again, if you can do without borrowing, that's the ideal situation, basically.
And I think another common model that we see is that oftentimes, depending where a student is going, their first year might be on campus accommodation or college affiliated accommodation, which naturally is going to have that bit more of a higher price tag for what comes with it. And when they found their feet a little and they might get into their next semester or their second year, they'll go out in the private rental market, and oftentimes then you can go home during the summer and you're small savings, but the
possibly
ways they can add up.
Possibly, but we might be looking back at our day, Daragh, you know what I mean? My day was a lot longer, or a lot longer time ago than you. But studies have shown that actually private accommodation is higher now than campus accommodation. And if you're lucky enough to get campus accommodation, you probably should take it. And again, that's and going back to that, I think in a recent Irish Times study showed that campus accommodation could be as much as 10 grand a year or more. Private accommodation could be as much as 10 grand a year more than campus accommodation. So I suppose it just shows the housing shortage that we have there at the moment, that even students, in a private accommodation setting are really being squeezed as well. You know what I mean? That the prices that landlords can charge and get away with on the private market is really putting people under pressure. One other thing that we come across a little bit as well is maybe where a grandparent might want to help out, and again, you can utilise the child's or the annual gift exemption. So basically, a grandparent can gift a child up to 3 grand a year, or a grandchild, or gift anyone in particular up to 3 grand a year, and that is something maybe that people may be looking into. If you are a grandparent and you have maybe a newborn grandchild or whatever, and you want to do something for them, there's nothing better really than trying to put away a few quid in relation to their future education needs, because if we can do something like that, I think we're really giving them a good start in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Tommy, we often talk about saving for a rainy day. We very much the opposite of it, and ending today, sadly, I believe. What should you like to get up to in the sun yourself?
Oh, if I could get to the beach, I would. I've just been a little bit busy at the moment. I suppose, yeah. Listen, it's brilliant weather. How long it's going to last, I don't know. But listen, if we can get out with the dogs, it's probably even a little bit too hot to bring the dogs for a walk at the moment. I had to wait till 8 or 9 o'clock last night before I brought them. But yeah, get out in the fresh air, I suppose, really. Maybe cut the lawn, that kind of stuff. The wife will have a few jaws for me anyway, you know.
And while we have a financial expert, is it okay to dip into your discretionary fund today, or even your other funds to, you know, enjoy the 99?
Absolutely. That's what it's there for, you know what I mean? That's what you have your savings for. Your life is here to be enjoyed. So absolutely go and knock yourself out. Get that extra flake in that 99 today, Daragh.
And if you are a student studying for your Leaving Cert, the sum does eventually reappear once the exams are over too.
Or, well, it generally goes away once the exams are over. It tends to appear while the exams are going on or before. But yeah, I'd like to wish all the students, both junior and Leaving Cert next week, they're all starting. It's a very stressful time, not just for the students but parents alike. Just wish them all the best of luck, and don't forget, it's not the end of the world. There's many paths you can go down now to get to your destination, and best of luck to all of them.
Tommy Corbett from Carey Corbett Financial Solutions in Ennis. Tommy, thank you very much for joining us in the studio today.